Everybody doing?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm glad I'm not by myself.
Good seeing you again.
Now we cooking.
Hello, sir.
Good. All my friends in.
How you doing? Martin. Marty, how are you? Good to see you. Okay. Get the politician in the group right here.
I'm glad I'm not going to be the only one late for the meeting.
William, what are you running for?
I'm running for my life. Somebody better run with me.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm very pleased to be joined by so many working men and women who are standing here in the fight for fairness. In some cases, they've been fighting for more than a decade to bring this idea to life. Last week, I outlined my proposal to make the income tax system fair for the working people of Illinois. Since then, I've had the pleasure of visiting communities in different parts of the state. I was in El Dorado, where I signed a bill to make sure that there was access to quality health care in rural areas of Illinois. In Moline, I visited vocational training classrooms and the model career technical education that their high school students are getting. And everywhere that I went, the people of Illinois, the working families of Illinois, want to be treated fairly. I heard that loud and clear over and over again. As I said throughout my campaign, Illinois' flat tax system is regressive and unfair to the middle class and to those who are striving to get there. People like me should pay more, and people like you should pay less. It's simple. That's what this fair tax will do. As we discuss this proposal with the members of the General Assembly and ultimately ask the people of Illinois to decide, my administration is committed to being fully transparent and giving everyone the tools that they need to fully understand this proposal. To that end, I'm proud today to introduce the Fair Tax Calculator. This calculator will allow every taxpayer in Illinois to calculate exactly what the fair tax will mean for them and for their families. All you need to do is go to illinois.gov/fair tax calculator. That's illinois.gov/fair tax calculator. And you plug in your income, the number of children if you're a parent, and your property tax bill if you own a home. For those who earn up to $250,000, this calculator will show you that you will get tax relief. In fact, 97% of Illinoisans will see tax relief under this proposal. In some cases, this reduction will be very modest, and in some cases, especially for families with children, it will amount to hundreds of dollars. That's real money that working families can use for an emergency car repair, groceries to feed their children, or childcare expenses. The fair tax provides a start to much-needed property tax relief with a 20% increase in the property tax credit. So the tax calculator asks homeowners to plug in their property tax information. The fair tax also includes a new tax credit of $100 per child for families raising children, especially those families who need it most. So there's a place to plug in the number of children in your family. While the fair tax will give relief to 97% of individual taxpayers and brings tax fairness to our state, it has a very important additional underlying purpose. It will put Illinois on firmer fiscal footing. The fair tax would eliminate the budget deficit, would balance future budgets, pay down the backlog, and reduce the state's pension liability by producing revenue of $3.4 billion. It would restore stability to our economy and end the uncertainty that has plagued our state. It will give job creators and working families the confidence that Illinois is getting its fiscal house in order. Discussions are ongoing with members of the General Assembly on both sides of the aisle. I respect the rights of opponents to disagree with this proposal. We should all demand that they acknowledge the facts and tell us specifically what they support that will address a $3.2 billion deficit, will pay down $15 billion of debt associated with unpaid bills, and protect working families. While they may not agree with my approach, they should do so in good faith and with a specific counterproposal, not pie in the sky. We must act, and the principal options for fixing state finances are, number one, for those who oppose any new revenue, they would have to make a drastic 15% cut to schools, to public safety, to transportation, and to universities, which would also inevitably lead to a property tax increase on the local level all across our state. A second option is to raise income taxes by 20% on everyone, including those who earn between $17,000 and $250,000. Or three, we can implement a fair income tax that gives everyone under $250,000 tax relief and ask those who make more to step up to the plate and pay more. I choose fairness. Before I take any questions, I'd like to invite a few other speakers to talk about what the fair income tax means to them. And I'd like to begin by calling on Bob Reiter, who is the president of the Chicago Federation of Labor. Bob?
Thank you, Governor Pritzker. As Governor Pritzker said, my name is Bob Reiter. I'm president of the Chicago Federation of Labor. We represent 300 unions that represent 500,000 working men and women in Chicago and Cook County. Usually I go into my whole rap about we represent airline pilots and zookeepers, but I'd really like to talk about two specific groups of people today. First, the folks who give us vital services that we need in our everyday lives, from the state workers, the social workers, to teachers, people that oftentimes, under the current budget climate, go into their own pockets to help people that they're providing services for, right? We all know about the teacher who goes and buys extra supplies for their classroom because the school district can't provide them what they need anymore to take care of our children when they're in their care. But I also want to talk about the other folks we represent, the factory workers, the service workers, the people who will really benefit from this tax cut. When I hear folks, the minority, the people who are in the 3% complain about a tax increase that'll only affect 3%, but yet give a tax break to 97% of this state, it really says something about where their priorities are. Their priorities are not here in the state of Illinois. Their priorities are to take care of themselves. The great thing about Governor Pritzker and what he's done, and JB, I have to give you a lot of credit. You're the person who I thought you were going to be. You're the person who came out of the gate fighting for working families right away. You're taking on one of the toughest structural problems this state has had, and that's having a system of revenue that is fair, that's fair to 97% of our state, and setting the course so that way Illinois can continue to be our home, the state that we're proud of, the place where people want to come, despite what the 3% of the highest earners in our state will try to portray our state as. You know, I am just so proud to stand here representing those factory workers, those service workers, and all those who will get a tax cut while still increasing revenue for our state. And I got to tell you, it also takes a lot of courage to go home and tell your wife that you just proposed increasing your own taxes, even though I know MK is of like mind. But I'm just so proud to be here today. And I'd like to introduce, like I said, we represent so many people. We represent the working poor to the middle class, and I'd like to represent one of our members from one of our most vibrant unions here in the city of Chicago, Carol Politz from IBEW Local 134.
Good morning, and thank you. And I will just reiterate that coming from a union family, coming from the middle class. We are so happy to have a new governor that has taken it upon himself and to keep good on his promises and level the playing field. 97% of this population here is going to benefit from this fair tax, and we are at ease. We feel that we have a level playing field now, and it's all going to make a lot of people very happy, and thank you very much for that. And now I'd like to introduce Bill McNary, and he is the Director of Citizens Action, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol, my lifelong friend who I just met a few minutes ago. Hi, my name is William McNary, and I'm the Director of Citizen Action Illinois, and I'm also one of the founding members of the Responsible Budget Coalition. We are a coalition that have been fighting for three principles that we judge revenue on. Number one, we are fighting for adequate revenues, making sure that all necessary services in healthcare and human services and education and public safety are funded. Secondly, we are fighting for no more cuts, fighting against the drastic cuts that have been made over the last 5 to 10 years. And finally, fairness. And we finally have a proposal that is fair. It allows people with higher incomes to pay higher taxes and people with lower incomes to pay lower taxes. This is about creating jobs and protecting the middle class. This is for the people who are trying to keep a roof over their head and food on their table, gas in their car, and maybe send their kids to college. It's about protecting those who are trying to get in the middle class, the single mom who has 2 jobs, the kids who are starting their first job, and the unemployed who need a paycheck so they can raise their families and contribute to society. It's about our seniors who have paid into not only Social Security and Medicare, but many paid into a pension system, and it's about keeping our promises to them. We need to renew the basic contract between government and labor and business and community that shares Illinois' wealth and prosperity, and make sure that we all do better when we all do better. Illinois' current tax structure forces folks with the lowest incomes to shoulder a greater tax burden than folks with higher incomes, and Governor Pritzker's plan will make the wealthy pay their fair share. When the top 1% who make more than $540,000 a year pay just 7.4% of their income in taxes, while the lowest 20% who make less than $22,000 a year pay 14.4%, that's just not fair. It's time for change, and that time is now. Lastly, let me suggest that we get ready to make this big change in Illinois, and to do that, we must stop feeding into people's cynicism about government's ability to serve people. A little cynicism, that's healthy, but too much cynicism will kill the spirit. If conservatives hate government in theory and progressives hate government in practice, we are never going to get the revenue we need to make sure that we meet our needs. There's a lot of talk in Washington, D.C. and here in Springfield about values. We have a values-based document in government, and it's called a budget. It sets our state's priorities. For where your treasure is, there your heart should be also. And when government sets the wrong priorities, it's the people that pay the price. Lastly, I was brought up Baptist. I closed more than once, but I promise this is my final close. We should not judge a man by the size of his wallet, but by the size of their hearts and their commitment to our values. And our governor has a big wallet, that's for sure. But I'm so proud to stand with a man who puts his wallet where his values are. Some people say this is not enough. Well, $3.4 billion, that's a lot of money. Bill Withers, I'm a soul man. He basically, with his grandma's hands and Ain't No Sunshine and Use Me, that's the songs he made. But he said one time, on the way to our journey toward wonderful, sometimes we have to stop at a place called all right. So, 97% of the people getting a tax cut. Man, that's all right. $2 billion. Man, that's all right. Tax credits, child tax credits and property tax credits, that's all right. Man, you know what? It's not where we want to be and not where we ought to be, but man, I'm going to get out this car and enjoy this place called All Right. And I want to thank the governor for bringing us to this place, and we'll continue the journey going forward. Thank you, Governor, and thank you for the opportunity to stand with you.
Thank you very much.
very much, William. It's a hard act to follow, folks. Thank you very much. I'm glad you went last. Everybody else is too, I'm sure. I'm happy to take any questions, and I know the others who have spoken today too are happy to take any questions from the media.
Did you meet with the rating agencies, and does your budget need to be changed in any way to avoid a downgraded junk?
I did meet with the rating agencies yesterday. We had good meetings with all of the rating agencies, and I think they went well. They, too, agree that we need revenue in the state in order to meet our obligations. They look forward and say this is a good start. They know that our pensions are worth fighting for, making sure that we've got to step up for the obligations of the state, not just in pensions, but our other obligations, bonds that we've issued over many years. So it went very well. We also met with investors yesterday. Very good feedback all the way around.
But does your budget need to be changed in any, did you talk about, you're just a notch above junk. They've brought up things like there's a third of your budget is non-recurring revenue. You're reducing the pension payment. These are all, red lights for the rating agency.
Well, all of it will be, as you know, a budget is a proposal by a governor, and the legislature has to take up that proposal and then look at what they want to add or subtract from it. But I would say that they're pleased to see, the rating agencies, the investors seem pleased to see that we are getting our fiscal house in order and that we're heading in the right direction.
They said this was a good start. So to the point of, is this enough? Is $3.4 billion enough, or are you going to have to raise taxes once the tax sale?
Well, what I mean is that making a proposal of a budget, making a proposal of a fair tax system means that we've started the process toward putting our fiscal house in order. And so they're pleased to see that we are on our way. Remember that I'm succeeding a governor who said that credit ratings don't matter, and who proved it in his actions, that he didn't care. The fact is that I do care, that we do want to make sure that we're balancing our budget, that we're paying our obligations. We have this $15 billion bill backlog, some of which has been refinanced, but it's still there, it's debt. We need to make sure that we're paying down those debts that were racked up, 10 billion of it, racked up in just the prior administration, 5 from before. We've got to address that, our budget deficit, and of course we've got to make sure we're whittling down the pension net liability.
Is it 3.4 billion? Are these rates going to get you there for that?
I believe it is, and in fact, what I've said is that although there's a $3.2 billion projected budget deficit for next year, there is a multi-billion dollar, it's been presumed to be around $2 to $2.5 billion of a structural deficit that needs to be covered for years to come. That's why we need to change the tax system. And the question I guess I would put forward is, how are the opponents of this going to address the problem? Because there really are only 3 choices, or at least 3 major options that are available. One is for those who are just opposed to any revenue for the state, they should tell you, and you should ask them, what are they going to cut? Because it takes 15% across the board among all discretionary spending in order to get balance. So that's one choice. And that doesn't solve all the problems. If you do that, you're going to see a property tax increase for everybody across the state because people are going to have to pay for their local schools somehow after a 15% cut in state funding for schools. That's one option. A second option is an across-the-board 20% income tax hike on everybody, even those who make $17,000, $50,000, $100,000, all the way to $250,000 and above. Everybody would see a 20% tax hike. That's their second option that some of them have proposed. And the third is to implement a fair tax where people who are wealthier pay more, people who are less wealthy pay less. That's the system that I believe is the best one and it's the fairest one.
Governor, is there any room for change within your proposal, seeing as it's only March, you're negotiating? Is there any kind of wiggle room with these rates, or is this exactly the way you'd like to see it passed?
Well, I put a proposal forward, and so this is the one that I think is best. But I understand that there are differing opinions that should come to the fore. I'm somebody who believes that there are good ideas to be had anywhere, including among Republicans and Democrats. And so they should bring those forward. But I think folding your arms and saying, let's not do anything, that's the wrong answer.
You talked about three options, but there are other options that have been out there for a long time. Things like taxing retirement income, even of just wealthy retirees earning maybe more than people on the higher brackets that you propose, or taxing services that are used by the wealthy, like landscaping, things like that. Why aren't those on the table?
I put my position forward. I said it for 2 years. I think we need a fair tax system. This is my proposal for how to overcome the fiscal challenges that our state has. It's the best option, in my opinion, for overcoming that. That's why I put it forward. I think that most people in the state think giving a 97% of the state a tax cut is a pretty good idea, and that asking the wealthiest people in the state, who are currently paying the very same rate as someone who earns the minimum wage, that doesn't seem fair to me, and I don't think it seems fair to most people in the state.
Well, I think most people can understand the philosophical objection to taxing retirement income, but what is the objection to taxing services, to expanding the tax base on?
From the very beginning, what I've said is that flat taxes are regressive, and I choose not to look for revenue, if I can avoid it, to not look for revenue in flat taxes. Sometimes you can't avoid it, but here we have a flat income tax system. The best way, if we need revenue to overcome the fiscal challenges that have been brought upon me, I came into office and these challenges existed. I'm simply trying to overcome them. I'm trying to put this state on firm fiscal footing for the future, and I'm doing the right thing by asking the people who are most able to step up to do that. The others want more flat taxes. I understand that there are organizations out there that have put forward ideas about raising the flat tax. But listen, the organizations, often the people who are saying that, are representing the 3%. And not the 97%. And the bulk of a flat tax increase falls on the middle class and working class, and people are striving to get to the middle class.
About a tax on services.
Those are flat taxes. What do you think? I mean, everybody gets taxed at the same rate on services that are provided to them if you're going to tax those services. All I'm saying is that the best way, if you want to make the system fair, and that's what I'm trying to do, the best way to do it is what I've put forward. Having said that, and to Tina's question earlier, I believe that there are good ideas that people will put forward about the fair tax, and they're going to put forward those ideas, I hope, over the coming weeks. I hope Republicans who opposed this, not even knowing what it was, they opposed it before they saw it, I think now should take a look and probably have an opportunity here to reconsider their position.
One more.
Marnie.
Governor, Republicans I've talked to have said this is like a slippery slope. Once that the numbers are going to keep changing, that, you can take one bracket and increase it 1 year, that it's just going to open the door to more and more tax increases. What do you say to that?
Well, you should ask them what has stopped the tax system from being unfair in the past. Nothing stops the past legislatures and governors from changing the taxes in the state or going forward to changing the taxes in the state. Fact is that I'm being responsible. I'm putting forward a proposal that is right and fair for middle-class taxpayers. It's the right thing to do. And, democracy is what ultimately is the moderator, let's say, on any proposal. I think what we've put forward is something that a vast majority of people in the state will support.
Why not have more brackets where there's more than, right now there's only 6, so why not have more brackets?
You could, other states have others, but I put forward my proposal. Thank you. Hey, thank you very much. Appreciate you, everybody. Thank you for coming. Yeah, come on.
Our officers,
Jeff Berkowitz, thanks for joining us on the Illinois Channel. We're going to take a bit of an in-depth look at the run for the mayor. what they care about, are the issues we're talking about. What are you going to do about the schools? What are you going to do about fixing the financial situation of the city? And what are you going to do about the level of crime and ensuring that we have safe neighborhoods? Would I be right on that?
And frankly,
The Illinois Channel, keeping you connected to your state, your issues, your home.